Coming up tonight on Fifth Third Business Beat, with no big-name conventions coming to town, local hotels brace for a tougher year. Credit card fees are having an impact on retailers. An industry with a niche adapts to the poor economy and changing trends. Lucy May explains how the Fine Arts Fund hopes to reach its campaign goal in tough economic times. See how a Cincinnati product helps students surf the internet safely. Financial advisor Mackie McNeil talks with Crystal Faulkner about financial planning priorities for 2009. Brian Hart, director of Sober Living, explains his mission to help men in recovery make a fresh start. Business Courier editor Rob Dahlmeyer talks about when we might expect economic recovery. And Doug McNeil, president and CEO of Atrium Medical Center, joins Doug Bolton for Publishers Beat.
Fifth Third Business Beat is brought to you in part by Fifth Third Bank, Cincinnati Bell, and Cincinnati United Contractors.
Hello, I'm Brian Patrick. Welcome to Fifth Third Business Beat for Friday, January 16th, 2009. On page one of this week's Business Courier, hotels in Greater Cincinnati are bracing for a tough year. Hotel general managers are concerned that families will cut back on leisure travel and business travel is down as well. Hotels, like all other businesses, are watching their budgets closely. Downtown hotels had a banner year last year, thanks in part to the NAACP and National Baptist conventions that came to town. Big conventions are booked years in advance, so many downtown general managers were expecting this to be an off year.
We look at our future sales volumes through the convention center, and we're able to compare that to past years and sort of gauge where we'll be in an upcoming year. So in the start of 2008, looking forward, we were able to really see that there was going to be some diminishment of our volumes for the city in 2009.
Still, the Cincinnati USA Convention and Visitors Bureau has stepped up its efforts to book trade shows and smaller conventions. It doesn't expect to top 2008, but hopes to come close. With retailers struggling to make sales, credit card fees are snatching some of their profits away from them. Retailers pay banks a fee for the privilege of accepting credit cards. Those fees depend on the size of the purchase and the individual retailer. The bank then processes these transactions and pays a portion of the fee to the credit card issuer, like American Express. At Little Mahatma, a jewelry store in the Gateway Quarter, it costs owner Gloria McConaughey 30 cents every time someone charges a purchase. But other local store owners say they've noticed some customers are mindful of that and are opting to pay cash. You might think the funeral industry would remain untouched by the recession since people continue to die in spite of the economy. But that would be a wrong assumption. Eagle Coach Company makes hearses and limousines for the funeral industry. They build them on Cadillac and Lincoln chassis that are cut and then stretched 35 inches. 200 specialized parts accommodate this conversion. 2008 was a strong year for the business, and it expects to hold its own this year, but the company is concerned about what's happening with the big three automakers in Detroit.
What happens in Detroit does affect our business, specifically at Cadillac and Lincoln. Right now, Detroit Hamtramck is down for the entire month of January, so we had to pre-order chassis to fulfill our production requirements for January and a good part of February as well.
Eagle Coach Company makes up to 1,200 hearses a year, employing 55 people. Now to a story by Lucy May on the Fine Arts Fund. It's gearing up for this year's campaign despite the poor economy. Lucy, what kind of strategy is the fund planning to use?
Well, they have a much more targeted marketing approach this year. They have different materials that target very specific groups of donors based on the reasons they might give. Some are targeted towards parents. If they like to give because their kids enjoy the children's theater or Madcap Puppets. Others are targeted to young professionals. And there's one piece of marketing material that actually targets people who may think of the arts as a job creation kind of entity.
Has this strategy been tried before, or is it something new for the Fine Arts Fund?
Well, the folks at the Fine Arts Fund tell me they tried this on a much smaller degree last year, and they had some good success. At the end of last year's campaign, even though they did well and raised more money than they had the year before, they were beginning to feel the softening in the donor base. So they decided they needed to really hone in on the reasons why people give and try this much more strategic approach in what they are sure will be a very difficult year this year.
So how does it look for the campaign at this point?
Well, I'm told by campaign officials that they expect it to be a real nail-biter. They haven't set their goal yet. They're going to do that with various meetings early in February, and the campaign officially kicks off February 15th. But they're expecting it to be difficult. They do have some early support. Macy's executive is chairing the Fine Arts Fund this year, and they've agreed to up their corporate giving this year, so that's a good start for them, but they're real worried that they could come up short compared to last year's numbers.
How does the fund decide how the money will be used?
They have a number of member organizations. Some of the big arts organizations like the ballet, the symphony, some of those organizations get substantial amounts of the money that's raised by the Fine Arts Fund, but they also have associate organizations, smaller groups that get money from the fund, and all of those groups have to meet certain requirements, and the Fine Arts Fund has certain standards that they have to meet in order to get their funding. So they have to meet different requirements, show that they're good stewards of the money, and then that the Fine Arts Fund distributes accordingly.
All right, thank you, Lucy. Sure. Be sure to read Lucy May's story on page 9 of this week's Business Courier. Here's the Courier Greater Cincinnati Stock Index. We track the performance of about 40 local stocks, comparing them with the broader market using the Dow Jones Wilshire 5000 Index. The market lost ground last week. The local index fell about 6.5%, while the overall market slipped around 6.1%. The internet is a student's research tool, but if not used properly, the student could gain access to some rather inappropriate sites. Patricia McGeever reports on a local company that's helping children all over the world search the internet safely.
The assignment today in Mrs. Muller's 5th grade class is for students to research jazz musicians and write about one they discover. They're doing their research online using an educational search tool developed here in Cincinnati.
Once you're on the NetTrekker, go. You don't need me.
NetTrekker provides quick and easy access to more than 300,000 digital resources that have been evaluated by a team of teachers. That's why Mrs. Muller isn't concerned about her students surfing the internet.
The benefits of having it are I never have to worry that they're going to get something inappropriate, and that's huge. For me, to let them get on NetTrekker and do whatever they want to look up or research as the year goes on, I'm comfortable. I can move around. I don't have to be sitting right on top of who's using the computer.
NetTrekker directs its users to relevant websites, bypassing the ones that are questionable. It's teacher-friendly and provides a lot of information about lesson plans. It's also kid-friendly. A lot of students even use it at home.
First you log on and then you type in what you want to research, and then you can find different websites on it and look up who you want to research.
If you have a project that's due or something, you always can get on the internet and just look it up for your information, and it's like having a library at home.
NetTrekker is a product of Thinkronize, a Cincinnati company founded in 1999.
Well, the growth has been terrific. In fact, we were on the Inc. 500 list along the way, so that was pretty cool. But we've grown really fast, and by selling subscriptions to schools who need a service like this. So it started out with 1 school, then 2, and now we're in about 21,000 schools.
That adds up to about 12 million children all over the world. The Business Courier reported in October when Thinkronize made a deal to distribute NetTrekker in 26 Asian and Pacific countries.
From a Cincinnati perspective, it's kind of neat that it was built here and by people who live here generally. And our servers that host the product for worldwide distribution are in downtown Cincinnati. So sure enough, if someone logs on in Japan or Thailand or South Africa and wants to use NetTrekker, all their traffic is coming right through Cincinnati.
The Fairfield City School District uses NetTrekker because the teachers asked for it. Their subscription began in August.
Now that the teachers are comfortable with the technology, the goal for next year is to move beyond the basics and take full advantage of everything NetTrekker has to offer.